craziest
stuff, bro.
cave rescue missions ever. If you're anything like me, then you guys have spent a lot of time at 2 a.m. watching YouTube. And for some reason, we all end up in the
just like me
same
for
rabbit
real.
hole, watching those insane caving videos. You know, the guys with loving families at home who just decide that they need to shove themselves through 2-inch cracks, 100 feet under the ground, while half underwater and covered in spiders. And at this point, it's even a meme.
What do they do? Like, if they're covered... Damn, niggas really... They be having bugs. They be having spiders, centipedes, fucking roaches crawling all over their body, and they probably don't even know, bro. Nah, fuck that, bro.
To make fun of these crazy
Fuck no, bro.
cave people. All over TikTok, people are just putting shoes over cracks and being like, oh, look at me, I'm a caver. Which is honestly hilarious. But in this video, we're going deep. No pun intended. Today, we're just discussing rescue missions. But I'm putting a twist on this video. These rescue missions could either be successful or unsuccessful, and you won't know the outcome until the end of the story. So buckle up and don't get too attached to the characters in these stories. Let's begin. Thunder Canyon. This story gets seriously intense and involves a software engineer who went on a cave expedition.
A software engineer? You have a great job that you went to school for that's extremely hard to be, and you want to be a cave diver?
With an experienced group and ended up fighting for his life. Brent Colvin is a 39-year-old software engineer from Valley Center, California. And due to the fact that he was an engineer, he was a very meticulous planner, especially when it came to planning unique adventures. And his trip to Thunder Canyon was no different. It's important to note that Brent is not an unexperienced caver and has been caving for years and is considered by many an intermediate to advanced caver. And the group of cavers he was about to embark on this expedition on were even more experienced than him. Thunder Canyon is a legendary cave for a few reasons. For starters, it's extremely elusive and is not marked anywhere, and it's only known within the caving community. And even learning the coordinates or general location of this cave system is more or less of a privilege.
So that's where you lost me. Bro, see it, Shani? I understand. This is where niggas start losing me. You're telling me, okay, I understand. There's a lot of caves. Definitely like in California or like Arizona, Nevada that are like just known for niggas to go cave diving in. I'm sure there's a lot of caves known. Why is this a underground speakeasy at cave? Why I gotta like ask behind the in and out where this cave is?
That aura
doesn't make any sense.
For a lot of cavers already is so enticing, but it doesn't end there. The cave itself is dynamic. It's deep, dark, open in some places, wet in some places, tight in some places, and it almost sounds like I'm not describing it.
Yeah, what the heck? Trust me, bro.
A cave, but trust me, I am. Personally, it's hard to imagine a cave seeming enticing. However, if caving is your thing, Thunder Canyon had everything you wanted. It was rare, unique, and there was also many ways to approach it, as there was multiple entrances and exits that have been mapped out by other cavers. On Sunday, May 3rd, 2010, Brian and 6 other experienced cavers found themselves en route to Thunder Canyon, which included a short drive down an abandoned dirt road, and then from there, a 2-mile hike to even get close to one of the elusive entrances to Thunder Canyon.
That's
After
the
doing some
entrance?
searching, they
Nah, that's gotta be cap. That's gotta be cap. That's gotta be cap, bro.
find one of the entrances at 11 a.m. and the excursion begins. Upon entering this cave, they descend.
You're lying. You're lying. They fit in through. Pause. This little hole.
One of the elusive entrances.
Bro. They definitely going by bodies in there, bro.
To Thunder Canyon. After
Someone
doing
had
some
to have,
searching,
someone had to have died. Someone had to have died in that other one we saw the other week, bro. What they called it? That Bruad Cave,
they
bruh.
find one of the entrances at 11 a.m. and the excursion begins. Upon entering this cave, they descend, and shortly after, without a hitch, the entire team clears the first obstacle. However, after this first rappel was a much larger task. It was an 80-foot drop. Now, it's important to note that this isn't just a rappel either. This rappel is a descent into darkness, going through a literal underground waterfall that lands you into a...
Dude, there's this, bro, this is literally the shit I do in Minecraft, bro. What? Are you kidding me right now?
Underground puddle of almost freezing cold water. But for cavers, this is all part of the thrill. The guide, Luca, is the first to rappel, and shortly after, the other cavers rappel as well, until they are all safely
literally what I do in Minecraft.
At their first checkpoint. At this point, it was obvious that some of the cavers were already feeling the pressure of what this cave was about to bring.
Yeah,
and the
I
guide
still
even
got it
gave
on my
everybody
PC.
out,
Shit.
saying it's only
I might
going to
be
get
able
worse
to.
from here. And if you want to get out now. There is about to be tight squeezes. It's only going to get colder, and the trip has just begun. But even with some unsure faces, everybody continued on the journey. After completing a few rooms and rappelling twice more, the group meets their first fissure, aka one of these claustrophobic holes, which was literally named the Terrible Traverse. And it's called that because it takes a right angle into a 9-inch wide crack. A gap so tight that you can't
9 inch. Hold on, bro. How long is 9 inches, bro? So they had to fit through. You're lying, bro. How did they get through this? You're lying. I can't even fit through this, bro. I'm not getting through that, bro. My cheeks not even. No one's getting through that, bro. Who's getting through that, bro? They got no cheeks on them, bro. They talking about some 9 inches. Hold on, bro.
To even turn your head. And not only is it tight, the gap is also deep. 200 feet deep from top to bottom. It's important to note that the group reached this fissure at 3 p.m., 4 hours into their caving journey. And this fissure was one of the last things standing in their way before they were at the exit of the planned route. And it was, of course, at this fissure where everything was going to take a terrible turn. The guide of this expedition goes through this crack first, without a hitch. He's done it many times. Next up, one of the least experienced cavers goes through this gap, and he, unfortunately, gets stuck.
I knew someone was gonna get stuck. I knew it. I knew it was gonna happen.
And not only does he get stuck, but he panics. He had never been pinned like this before and was freaking out, and none of the other cavers were going to be able to help him until he calmed down. However, within 5 minutes, the guide was able to calm him
Hyperventilate, bro.
down. And within 10 minutes, the guide and the other cavers were able to pull him through and assist him out of the cave. After that slight hiccup, 3 other cavers in your party make it through this fissure, and it's at that point when the guide takes all of the other cavers out of the group, leaving Brent to cross this fissure all by himself. A reasonable decision because Brent was an experienced caver and had experience in this specific cave. However, Brent...
Wait, you're telling me he just took everyone else out and they just left Brent back there? It was one more person. Why couldn't they just wait on him?
Hadn't experienced the Terrible Traverse, and this experience would be one that he would never forget. It's important to note that Brent was very nervous about trying this gap, and he didn't even know that the guide had left with the other cavers. So it was simply just Brent and his final buddy behind him in the cave. Regardless, Brent began moving through the Terrible Traverse. One of the biggest challenges associated with this fissure is the fact that you're not just walking through a gap or crawling through a gap. You have to move feet first down the length of the crack, and then angle your body sideways to shimmy along before dropping down a 5-foot gap where you could then get your footing and squeeze through to the exit. Just to be extra cautious, Brent removed his wetsuit to ensure he had as much space as possible. However, after inserting his body fully into this fissure, he was almost instantly stuck. He could feel the tension of the rocks on his chest. His hips were wedged between the walls, and the only thing supporting his body was his hand. He couldn't move in any direction, and it was at that point when he realized he was stuck. After being stuck for what felt like an eternity, the guide returned, only to notice Brent was stuck. And after 2 hours of their best efforts, Brent was no closer to being free and was actually beginning to slip deeper and deeper down this fissure. Due to the stress of believing that he would not make it out alive, Brent became rather lucid. And the final caver behind him, James, was simply telling him stories to try to keep him awake and conscious. And it wasn't until 6:40 p.m., almost 4 hours later, that the San Bernardino Mountain Rescue Team was actually notified and mobilized to the position. After 7 hours of Brent...
It took them 4 hours to get there? It took them 4 hours to get there.
Being stuck. The guide was signaling to a rescue helicopter that was sent, as the initial rescue team that showed up was simply not equipped to help Brent. And although...
What do you mean not equipped, bro? What do you mean not equipped?
Though the helicopter spotted them and help was on the way, it took an additional 4 hours for the helicopter to find a safe place to land and the specialized team to get on site. At this point, there was a very real risk of hypothermia for Brent and compartment syndrome, which is essentially when your chest is compressed for a long period of time, exposing you to the risk of cardiac arrest. Brent dying in his stuck position was a very real situation and was only becoming more and more likely as more time passed. Once the rescue team finally was able to reach Brent within the cave, they explained exactly how severe the situation was, and their first order of business was keeping him as warm as possible, as he had no wetsuit on and his body was trapped between 2 rocks that were much colder than his body temperature, essentially drawing heat out of his body. The rescuers put heat packs around Brent and even gave him an electrolyte beverage. But with Brent and the final caver, at this point hypothermic, the rescuers had to move quick to save these individuals. As the rescue team began to attempt to move Brent, it was obvious that this was going to be a painful experience, as his ribs were tightly wedged between 2 rocks. And as they began pulling at his feet, Brent was screaming in pain, and the rescue team even asked Brent if they should stop pulling him, and it's reported that Brent literally replied, "I don't care if you break my ribs, just get me out of here." The rescuers used as much leverage as possible to lift the wooden board that bridged the gap in this fissure that was supporting Brent, and they used anchors to try to lift his body to pull him out. And with many failed attempts, they were able to move him 1, 2, 3 inches until they had him in a spot where their only option was to begin pulling his feet and essentially yanking him out of this cave. Brent's condition deteriorated deeper and deeper, and at 3:40 a.m., nearly 15 hours after entering the cave, Brent was pulled free out of the cave and rescued. After Brent was led out of the cave, the final caver quickly squeezed through the fissure without an issue, and the entire team survived this expedition. And after everything was said and done, it took over 13 people to help rescue Brent. I thought I'd start this video on a happy note. Yeah, Brent survived, fortunately. But I could not imagine what that experience would be like. And truthfully, I don't even want to paint a picture because I don't even want to imagine it. Being stuck sideways, dark, hypothermic, and lucid has to be just awful. And believe it or not, Brent promised himself that he would continue caving after this. Although he did say he would avoid tight squeezes, so at least there's that. At least he made it. But that might not be the case for this next story. The Peruvian Intimeche Cave. Cecilio Lopez Tercero is a lifelong caver and adventure lover, and whether it be a natural talent or simply because of his lifelong experience and fascination, Cecilio had a very particular skill.
I understand you wanting to be, an adventure, explore the world. Like, I'm trying to do that shit too, but like, my nigga, I don't gotta go in no cave though. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't gotta go in no cave, and if I do go in a cave, it don't gotta be one of these. Like, it could be like one of the open ones, just like mad chill. They got like the little, you know what I'm saying? Like, they got like the rocks that be like all pointy and shit. They mad cool and shit, like a tavern from that one SpongeBob episode. That's solid. Like, that's mad clean. I don't need to go in this tight cave. What am I getting out of this except for just darkness?
Navigating caves and squeezing through extremely tight gaps, seemingly with ease. And
you're not even looking at none. You just looking at darkness.
Almost no fear. He is a respected cave explorer, and at the time of this story, he is considered a veteran caver. Cecilio was even a member of the Madrid Rescue Group, meaning that he was more qualified than anybody, not only to save people, but also to explore caves safely. He was one of Spain's most renowned rescuers and cavers. Cecilio was Spanish, but due to his unique skills, he was taken on expeditions around the world to navigate caves that no one else would dare, and to map out caves that no one else could.
Bro, I started streaming before 9.
Was a pro. Cecilio had heard.
I started streaming at 8:50. What do you mean it's not an early stream? That's 2 hours earlier, bro.
This obscure and rare cave system in the mountains of Peru through some of his colleagues, and when he learned that there was a potential.
You thought I was gonna get on stream at 2 o'clock?
For there to be never before seen
I just woke up
artifacts or structures, he was instantly on board, and the expedition was set. And
I actually woke up at 11 today.
Cecilio and 9 of his colleagues began their expedition into the Intimache Cave in the Peruvian Andes. The Intimache Cave was reported to be at least a mile long and at least 1,200
5 or 6
feet.
Bro, I was out eating with my family.
And Cecilio was curious,
like, niggas, I just got to just say fuck all that, just stream. What the fuck?
How much deeper
who the fuck is nigga? Yo,
and longer it was, and what secrets were hidden down in the bottom of this cave. Like any professional,
get a load of this guy, Johnny.
Meticulously, learning of all of the risks associated with this cave. With the expedition underway, Cecilio led his group of colleagues into this cave on a multi-day expedition. In the first few days went on without any issues. Notes were taken, beautiful sights were seen, and everything was going to plan. But as they got deeper and deeper into the
Prime Matt literally streamed at 7, barely. Prime Matt got on stream at 8 o'clock. Maybe 9. Alright. Also, Prime Matt wasn't employed, okay?
Cave, the squeezes only got tighter, and the map only got more vague. After multiple days in this cave, the challenging physical aspect was obvious and accounted for, but the mental aspect was starting to take a toll as well, as these people at this point had been in complete darkness for days, only seeing the light of their headlamp. And the cave that they are hundreds of feet into is completely silent, only broken by the sounds of water dripping. It wasn't until what would have been one of the last days of the expedition that tragedy struck, and it was during a rappel portion of the cave. Cecilio was
maybe I am, bro.
A modest 15 meters into the next
you never
room,
know nowadays.
13 days room. And it was at this point, after the anchor was set and he began rappelling, that he heard a cracking noise. His anchor had failed, and Cecilio was in a free fall, falling 15 meters onto hard rock. Cecilio somehow avoided all of the razor.
Nah, how much feet is 15 meters, bro? Yo, nah, we not asking you, an idiot. Alexa, how many meters? Wait, no, fuck. Never mind. Wait, stop. Shut up. Alexa, how many feet is 15 meters?
15 meters is about 49 feet.
49 feet? God dang. Falling for... Nah, 49 feet is insane, bro.
Sharp rocks covering the floor of this room. However, he lied there motionless, in extreme pain, and with a suspected broken back. After regaining consciousness, Cecilio came to the harsh reality of his situation. He lied helpless, deep in a cave that was already
Get
in
on
an
college
extremely
football. I ain't got
remote
nothing
and
else to do.
treacherous
I'm
location,
enjoying my
400 miles
YouTube right
away
now.
from Lima, Peru. He knew he needed to be rescued, but he also knew it was not going to be easy. One of Cecilio's colleagues carefully climbed down to where Cecilio was to assess the situation and realized how grim it was. One of the cavers in this party left to get help, and the others stayed with Cecilio to help monitor his health. Fortunately, Cecilio survived a fall that could have easily been fatal for some. However, now he has to survive what would likely be the most grueling days of his life. As after he fell and sustained these injuries, it would take almost a week for rescue personnel to make it to where Cecilio was. Keep in mind, Cecilio was in a deep, remote cave
Nah, this thing
located
about to-
on the
he about to-
top
he
of a
about to-
mountain, where
he
the
about to
entrance of the
despawn
cave was
after
at
this,
over
bro.
10,000 feet in altitude. When this medical team finally was able to find the location of the cave, hike over 10,000 feet
He about
the
to
cave
despawn,
entrance,
bro.
and then begin the
It's over with.
wild journey to where Cecilio was in the bottom of this extremely advanced cave, they weren't even there to help him escape. They were simply there to provide comfort measures and assess his health. They built a makeshift base camp and began administering morphine to provide comfort to the injured man that the medical team didn't know if they'd be bringing out dead or alive. Because Cecilio was still alive, removing him was going to be an extremely complicated feat, and it couldn't simply drag him by his feet, and he, unable to feel his legs, was unable to help himself as well. The medical team brought a rigid stretcher that was specifically designed to help carefully drag Cecilio out without jolting or repositioning his body, risking injuring him even worse. With medical measures in place, it was up to the other cavers to request specialized help. And initially, the Spanish government was unwilling to send a rescue team, and then they turned to the Peruvian government, both of which who denied to send help to save Cecilio's life. Cecilio's colleagues did the only thing they could do. They reached out to the Madrid Caving Society and also turned to social media, begging for support to help save their dear friend's life. They did
Niggas put it
everything
on
they could
Twitter?
to pressure
I
the
mean,
Spanish
TikTok?
government into saving one of their most valuable cavers. Now, this is where things get interesting. Once some of Cecilio's friends from back home caught news of this, they immediately flew to Peru to help save them themselves.
What?
That is real friendship. And by the time these amazing friends were on the scene, there was already a small village at this cave entrance, consisting of medical staff, rescuers, and volunteers. Don't forget, this cave entrance is extremely remote and over 10,000 feet in altitude. It's not an easy place to be. And once again, keep in mind that this cave is extremely advanced, and many of the volunteers and rescue personnel that were dispatched are simply not equipped for
Dude,
this
this
level
cave
of
is
cave.
literally
And
in
it
a
would be
mountain.
only more of a liability for them to even attempt to save Cecilio. By the time that this rescue mission was fully underway, there was volunteer cave experts from Spain, France, Mexico, Peru, and over 40 Peruvian fighter fighters and military personnel actively involved in the rescue of Cecilio. And yet, there was still major challenges that took place. These 40 people need to eat, drink, they need to communicate with others, meaning that all of the progress that they're able to make is delayed significantly due to their lack of supplies, only adding more and more complexity to this seemingly impossible rescue mission. With this global team of experts on site ready to help Cecilio, they began the exploration into the cave. And once they reached Cecilio, they even explained their plan to him and got his professional insight on the escape that they had planned. And then they built a base camp 900 feet into the cave and began to set a complex series of anchor points across the entire cave so that they could essentially hoist the stretcher with Cecilio on it without him taking much more damage. On the 12th day, when they began drawing the stretcher out of the deep cave, things took a turn for the worse.
It's about to
As
break.
on this day, winds were higher than normal.
Oh,
The
shit.
weather was unfavorable, and rain was adding an entirely new level of complexity into this rescue mission. Despite the heavy winds, a rescue helicopter was able to take the freshly rescued Cecilio to the nearest hospital, where he was treated, and after many months of treatment, he amazingly made a full recovery. The case of Cecilio Lopez is literally insane, and honestly a bit heartwarming to see how passionate people were about saving this man's life, likely because of all of the lives that Cecilio impacted during his time as a rescuer himself. If it wasn't for nearly 50 people from across the globe, not to mention local volunteers and villagers in the area, Cecilio would have never made it out of this cave and simply would have died. Call it luck or call it karma, Cecilio had something or somebody watching over him. Cecilio is a gangster.
I'm still tripping out how he survived a 49-foot fall, bruh.
And the story is a clear example of
On jagged rock.
how resilient the human body and mind can be. But we still have one more to discuss: the Chilean miner rescue. This rescue mission is by far the most intense we've talked about on this list, and is likely one of the most intense cave rescue missions ever conducted. As the title suggests, this rescue mission isn't of cavers who went down a deep, crazy, uncharted cave. This rescue mission is rescuing miners working in a gold and copper mine. And unfortunately, what started as a regular day in the job
Solo-leveling
ended up
reference.
becoming a multi-month global affair. Let me
Hell
explain.
nah.
On August 5th,
Month?
2010, 33 miners entered the San Jose cave in
Month?
Chile. But that night, none of these miners leave that
Did you
cave.
say month?
The San Jose cave is over 100 years old and it stretches over 10 miles of confusing corridors. Some of these mine shafts go almost a mile deep into the ground. But for these miners, this was a normal day at work. And shortly after 2 a.m., a collapse had happened, leaving these miners trapped. The San Jose mine, which was owned by the San Esteban Mining Company, was known for its notoriously unsafe work conditions, and the company had reportedly even ignored warnings from the Chilean Safety Administration. And unfortunately, today was the day.
So I understand y'all got to get your bag, but like, let's be honest, bro. I'm not surprised. You know, I can't really feel that bad. You kind of asked for it.
That what the Chilean government had warned about would happen. After hearing a huge rumbling noise and literally feeling the earth shake below them, these miners, unaware that they have just been trapped, decide that they should likely exit the cave to evaluate what just happened. And it's on their way out of the cave that these miners realize that there was collapse. And not only a small collapse, but a large collapse caused by a 45-story tall piece of diorite rock, blocking the only way in and out of the cave. This piece of diorite was almost 1,000,000 tons and fell directly onto the mine shaft. Fortunately, leaving the mine wasn't the only option for these miners,
Bro,
as near the very
you're
bottom of the
literally
mine was a man-made room known
A
as the
Hornets
refuge.
fan. Now
And
you're
after
a
realizing
Suns
that
fan
they weren't
again,
leaving
bro?
this mine, all of the miners
Where
gathered up
Kai
and
at,
made
bro?
their way
'Cause
to
we
the refuge.
knew this was gonna
The
happen.
refuge is exactly how it sounds. It's an emergency shelter area. Fresh air is strategically pumped into this room from the surface, and is also stocked with emergency food and medicine. This room was meant for this exact situation, and in this case is going to be the difference between life and death. Because the mine is so massive, men working near the very bottom of the cave still at this point were completely unaware of what happened, and one of the miners had to go down to inform them what had happened and bring them back up to the refuge. These 33 miners weren't just all mining together. They were all in different parts of the cave when this happened. However, they all survived the collapse, and it didn't take long for them to all be gathered up in the safest place in the cave. Some of the miners remember that the ventilation system that pumps fresh air into different parts of the cave is, by regulation, supposed to be large enough to carry a person, and also should have a ladder inside for situations like this. Unfortunately, after further inspection, it was discovered that these ladders were never installed, and that these air
GG.
pipes were simply
GG.
useless for escape.
Whoa. So they thought they had a ladder in there the whole time and no one actually decided to like check? Like, what type of management was going on, bro? What are we doing? You're in a mine cave a mile down into the earth, and you're telling me safety isn't like the number one option and priority before you actually go down to start working? Are we dumb?
And in their opinion, they have no way of contacting the surface. And at that point, things look grim. During this collapse, there was actually one miner who was in a part of the cave that was above where the collapse was, meaning that he was able to escape. Making his way through ash and rubble, he was able to tell the site supervisors exactly what happened and begin what would end up being a multi-month-long rescue mission. Due to the remote nature of this cave and the lack of any cell service, it took over 5 hours from the collapse happening for any authorities to even be notified of the situation. Unlike the last one, the government was willing to help these people, and they sent a specialized team down the mine shaft to see exactly what was going on. The specialized team decided to take the ventilation shafts down into the mine because they are able to rappel down and do not require a ladder. Although roughly halfway down this ventilation shaft, it is made very obvious that these ventilation shafts were unstable due to the collapse and that they would not be a method of rescue. And on their way back up, some rescuers were almost lost in another smaller collapse that took place within one of the ventilation shafts. And those on the surface still don't even know if the people in the cave are alive or not. After the miners return to the refuge with grim news about the ventilation shaft, the group of miners begin to plan for the worst. And it's at that point when they begin rationing the very small amount of supplies they have, and also begin to set out a routine, as these experienced miners understand that this rescue, if at all possible, will not take days, but likely weeks or longer. While it may seem like these miners are creating their own little community underground, kind of like a fallout shelter, an entirely new city is popping up on the
How do
surface
they
of this
know
mine, consisting of concerned citizens,
if it's
volunteers,
night or
and most
day,
importantly,
though?
family members of those stuck in the mine. After days being stuck in this mine, the miners are unsure if anybody is ever going to come save them. until a noise is heard, a faint drilling noise from above. And they realize that help is on the way and that somebody is drilling into the mountain. The team drilling above correctly assume that the surviving miners are going to be residing in the refuge. And it's for that reason that they aim a drill from the surface directly to the refuge. And a new challenge appears, accurately setting up the drill to ensure that it reaches the refuge. Because even being a percentage of a percent off on the surface, by the time they reach the depth of the refuge could be multiple feet off, meaning that they need to completely reset and re-drill once again. To ensure that this rescue mission goes as smoothly as possible, the Chilean government not only acquires the support of other larger mine rescue teams, but also contacts NASA for consultation to ensure that they are taking the best possible course of action. While a team of experts is ensuring that the drill is put in the perfect position, another group of rescuers try accessing the ventilation shafts once again to ensure that they are completely impossible to save the miners. And unfortunately, it's confirmed. And not only did they confirm that the ventilation shafts are useless, they also confirmed that the diorite rock is still moving. Meaning that not only was there a large cavern that the diorite rock fell from, creating a ton of unstable ground in the cavity that it left, but it also means that this large rock that is now blocking the path is also still unstable and moving, while only slightly. Unfortunately, the drilling isn't going much better. And at this point, the drill has bent and broken multiple times, and the rescue holes that they've started have been abandoned twice. And due to the discovery of the diorite rock moving, the primary entrance of the cave has been closed and sealed forever. Now meaning that the only way of saving these miners is by successfully digging a 2,000-foot hole that spans from the surface perfectly into the refuge without collapsing. At this point in the story, we are 14 days into these 33 men being trapped underground, and we are still only just getting started. The head of this rescue mission made an executive decision. They are not going to drill faster, but they're going to drill slower. They begin re-drilling, but turn the drill to half speed to ensure that the drill does not malfunction or break course, as accuracy in this situation is paramount. It's already been proven that trying to rush this drilling would only take longer due to all the possible and likely failures. And it's at this point when things get crazy. 17 days since the collapse, the slow drilling procedure has been semi-successful. And while the drill breaks through into something, they don't know what they had broken through to. And as they remove the drill to insert a camera to inspect where the drill ended up, they noticed that the drill had something attached to it. There was a note attached to it. A note from the miners below. They had contacted them. And to those above, this was the first confirmation that there was any living miners stuck in this cave. The letter described exactly where the drill had broken through in the mine, and also was a personal letter to members of the family from the miners, as they were still completely unsure if their fate was sealed or not. The last thing written on the note is the most important of all. It is a simple confirmation that all 33 miners are alive and well. And this brings the morale of all rescuers to an all-time high. But the job is still not over yet. Like, just think about it. Imagine 17 days ago, over 2 weeks ago, you are told that your family is dead in a mine and that your father, brother, uncle, cousin was in a gold mine that collapsed and that they are dead. And if the collapse didn't kill them, then being underground for 17 days definitely did. But then all of a sudden getting confirmation that not only your loved one, but everybody's loved one is alive in this mine. That has got to be the most intense roller coaster of emotions. Now that they have a hole that goes directly to the refuge, they drill 2 more. One for supplies and one that is intended to be used for rescue. The miners underground now have communication to the surface through a phone that was dropped down one of the supply holes. They have food, medicine, and water provided to them through one of these holes. And while things look amazing, they are still trapped underground. From day 17 till day 65, drilling continues to make a large enough hole to take people out of the refuge, and development continues on a
Nigga, I read it. What are you talking about? Look. The drill broke through the refuge. Right?
The mine, and also was a personal letter to
boom. Alright, it says
members of the family from the miners, as they were still completely unsure if their fate was sealed or not. The last thing written on the note
100.
Is the most important of all. It is a simple confirmation that all 33 miners are alive.
Estamos is like, you know what I'm saying, like it's using the ambos prefix, whatever it's called, right? So that's like, you know what I'm saying, all of, you know what I'm saying, and then bien is like good. So like all 33 refugees, or all 33 are good in the refuge. On me, that's actually like gotta be close to what it actually said.
And well. And this brings the morale of all rescuers to an all-time high. But the job is still not over yet. Like, just think about it. Imagine
Fucking bilingual, bro. Everybody bring the Latinas to the next stream.
17 days ago, over cousin was in a gold mine that collapsed and that they are dead. And confirmation, the most intense. One for supplies and one that was dropped down one of the supply holes. They have food, medicine, and water provided to them through one of these holes. And while things look amazing, they are still trapped underground. From day 17 till day 65, drilling continues to make a large enough hole to take people out of the refuge, and development continues on a pod that will be sent down this hole and retrieve these people. Essentially an elevator-like tube that can take one person at a time in and out of the cave. And on day 65, both of these new tools are put into place. There is a hole that is wide enough to take people in and out of the refuge, and an experimental device created by the Chilean Navy with support from NASA is ready to be tested. It's a metal tube that can be dropped and retrieved out of the cave, and it's now officially going to begin its first test run. A rescuer bravely enters this pod and descends down into the mine. Unsure if this pod will even make it down to the bottom of the mine safely, or even if it does make it safely, if it's able to go back up. However, a rescuer is required to descend with the pod to give proper instructions on how to safely use it and to give some support to those who have been underground at this point for 65 days. The first miner, who is already
Damn!
enters the pod and makes his 15
65 days?
and without a hitch makes it to the surface successfully and safely.
Imagine like being underground, not seeing no sunlight for 65 days. Nigga, I'd start tweaking, nigga. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'd really start tweaking. Cause I wouldn't know if it was day or night anymore. Then I'd be like, I'd start hallucinating shit. Then I'd be like, you down there with straight men too? Like, you know how much raging testosterone is going down there on top of just like niggas going crazy? Nah, bro, that's recipe for disaster, bro. I ain't gonna lie. These Chilean niggas is really chill as fuck. I ain't gonna lie, bro. You throw like 30 Americans down there? Hell no, that's just not happening like that. It's just not going down like that, bro.
Safely. The first of these 33 miners
Oh, I know it smelled like shit, bro.
to see the surface for over 2 months. Throughout the night, all 33 of these men were taken to the surface safely, where thousands of people stood by for the rescue and millions of people were watching worldwide on TV as this rescue was broadcasted globally. All of these men were deemed in good physical condition, and they were all instructed to wear sunglasses because they had been in essentially darkness for 2 months, and the sunlight could be harsh on their eyes. All of the men visited the hospital to ensure their vitals, and only 2 of them weren't instantly released. The 2 that weren't instantly released required either dental or some psychological help, both of which had those addressed successfully as well. This entire rescue mission was insane, and the fact that these men were able to survive for so long proves their mental and physical resilience. And I could not imagine the feeling of finally reaching the surface after over 2 months underground to see so many people screaming and cheering and celebrating the success of your rescue. This entire rescue mission cost over $20 million, with the majority of that money coming from private donations. The story, once again, is such a heartwarming example of communities and people coming together to save those in need. And I really wanted to highlight that element specifically in this video, because a lot of videos on these topics don't do that. They focus on the negative, which I get. And I guess if you want your little bit of negativity, here's something that'll piss you off. Investigations that took place after the rescuers were saved determined that there was no criminal charges responsible to the mining company for this collapse that happened, even though it was known for its unsafe conditions. And while that's an entirely different story for a different video, it's something to ponder on. Many of these men were giving donations and gifts from wealthy people who sympathized with their situation, but these gifts did not allow them to retire, and these men had to make a living, most of them returning to mining, believe it or not. And I knew I had to add it on this list of crazy and insane rescue missions. And I think it goes to show, with enough media attention to get enough people and the right people involved, almost anything is possible. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you want to watch another really cool video, check out this video.
I don't know how them niggas made it out, bro. They tough. They real tough. I would've went crazy down there, bro. I ain't gonna lie. I can't even sit through a fucking class for 2 hours without like low key itching to get out that bitch, bro. Niggas is down there for that long. That's insane. What are you talking